Hello and welcome back to the TorontoWebsiteDeveloper.com. I am P.D. Worski, the Toronto Website Developer specializing in Drupal. In the 9th video tutorial of this 10-part video tutorial series on creating an advanced e-commerce site using Drupal 7 and Ubercart, I'm going to show you how to spice up our event registration system. So this is something we created in video tutorial 8, and now what we want to be able to do is we want users to be able to choose the event that they're registering for when they actually create their registration. We want administrators to be able to see who's registered for an event and be able to email those users. And we also want to create a calendar on our site that users can browse to see all the upcoming events. So we've got a lot to cover. Hopefully you've seen my series on views, because there's going to be some complicated stuff that we're doing here, specifically with contextual filters and relationships. So if you haven't watched that video tutorial series, and at least that video tutorial on contextual filters and relationships, I highly suggest you go ahead and do that. The last thing that we're going to do in this video tutorial is we're going to create a custom module to actually simplify the list that we show to users when they're choosing the event that they create, to make sure that they're only registering for an event that they've paid for. So we've got a lot to cover. Let's jump right into it. So we're going to go to Structure, Views. We're going to add a view. And what we'll do first is create our list of views that users can select from. So we'll call this Event Listings. And we're going to show content. And we're going to show content of type event. So we're brand new. We're not going to create a page, and we are not going to create a block. We'll go ahead and continue and edit. And what we are going to show is the title. That's fine. Published is fine. Event is fine. And I think we are good to go. The only thing we have to do is add a references view. So once we add references, we see that we get a reference list. And we want to enable this as display all items, because we don't want user not to be able to select something because it's not listed there. And we can go ahead and save this. Now what we're going to do is head back over to our content type, to our event registration, and we're going to go to Manage Fields. And from here we're going to add a new field. We're going to call this Event Purchased Event, and we'll do this as a node reference, and we'll do this as a select list. So a content type that can be referenced is an event, and we're going to use our view that we just created, Event Listings. So we'll go ahead and we'll save that, and we can see that that's good and dandy. So now what we're actually going to do is we're going to go to pay per node here, and we're going to look at the actual event that was, or this Peter test that was created, and we're going to edit this, and we're actually going to say that it wasn't created, and we'll update that. Now there's one available for our actual user, so we'll go back as our user, and we'll go to my account, and we'll go to pay per node, and now we'll go to create, and we'll see we've got purchased events here, and we can actually see the actual list, and it's dropped down to Pete's Super Awesome Training. So that's awesome. We can actually see the list of the products that are created here. These are the actual events listed on the site, but we do have a problem. If we had multiple events, they would all be listed here, not just the event that the user created. So that's something that we're definitely going to have to fix. But before we do that, what we should do is actually update this title. Remember, we were going to do an automatic title, so let's go back to our content type, and we're going to go to event registration. We're going to go to automatic title generation here, so we're automatically going to generate the title and hide the field. And what we're going to do is we're going to do this based on nodes. We are going to choose the event name. So where are we here? Purchased event. So what I want to do is click in here, and I want to choose node purchased event. And I'm going to dash, and then I want to take the username. That's the author of the node. So that's going to automatically create my title, which also will automatically create my path based on that. Go ahead and close that up. I can save that content type. Now when I go back as the anonymous user, if I reload this page, you can see that the title disappears. So I'll go ahead and just go Peter Y, and we'll go t@t.com. And our purchased event is going to be Pete's Super Awesome Training. And you see that we get Pete's Super Awesome Training - Peter Test. And obviously we had the apostrophe there, so that's being escaped. So that's why we get some ugly stuff there. Moral of the story, don't use apostrophes. But automatically created this, and we have a nice title there. So that's kind of good. But we definitely need to fix this purchased event issue. And so we'll jump right into our custom module development that I was telling you about, and we'll take care of that. So I'm going to open up my IDE. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a custom two files that I need to create. So my first is twd event.info. So this is my info file for my module. And you'll see that I've just got a few lines here. I've got name is equal to twd event module. I've got description, provides a form alter for note add, form, and updates menu items. And then I'm telling it what core. I'm using, so 7.x. And then I've got my package, so I'm putting it in an Ubercart extra. And then I've got one file. I've got twd_event.module. And so that info file tells Drupal about my module, so I'm going to go ahead and save that. And then this twd event module, what I'm going to do is I need to actually alter a form. And so we do that in Drupal by heading over to api.drupal.org. And we're looking for hook form alter. We'll go ahead and search for that, and we'll see this is the signature we need. So we'll go ahead and grab this, and we're going to actually call this function. So this is going to be function, and instead of hook, this is going to be the name of our module. So it's twd event form alter. And I'm going to pass in those three arguments, and then I'm going to DSM the form, and I'm going to DSM the form ID. And that's a devel module function, and so you want to have the devel module enabled on your site. I've done that in a previous video tutorial, so hopefully you have as well. And now we're going to upload our module. And so you'll notice that I've got this in twd event, so that's the name of my module, as a folder, and then I've got these twd event module and info files. And so if I open up my FTP client here, I'm going to go into sites here, go into all, go into modules, and I've uploaded this, so you'll see I've got twd event, and if I scroll in there, I'm just going to upload my module here and refresh this. I'm going to go OK, and I'm going to head back over to my site, go to my modules here, and I'm going to look for twd event module. You'll see mine's coming up under Ubercart. That's because I previously had that and it's cached. So I'm just going to save this configuration. So with that saved, you can see we're starting to see our DSM, which is a bit of a problem that we're going to address because this is running on every single form that we're getting. So we're looking at the system modules form here, and we're getting what the actual form looks like. So if we head back over to our regular page, we can go to register for our event, which is what the form that we would be looking for. And here's the form ID that we would get. So let's grab this, and first thing we're going to do is make sure that this form alter doesn't run on every single form that we're looking at. And we do that by here, we're going to go twd underscore form underscore, and then the name of the form. So we're looking at event registration node form underscore alter. And what that does is it tells Drupal only run this function for that specific form. So then I can take out form ID from here, and I can remove this, save that. And if you're curious about all this, you can go back to api.drupal.org, hook form alter. Yep, get an error because I didn't let Ajax finish. And then you'll see here hook form ID alter. And so this is what we're actually using now. And you'll see that we don't need the actual form ID. So now, if we save this and we go back to our FTP client, we upload this, go ahead, override that. We have to flush our caches because hook form alter is actually cached. Okay, so we're still getting the form here, and if I go to my home page, you'll see that I'm not getting the form alter anymore, so that's nice. So we're only hitting the one form. So now what we need to do is we need to find this list of purchased nodes, and we need to alter that just so that it's the specific nodes that the person has purchased. So we do that by looking at this form, and if we scroll down, we'll see we can actually find the field purchased event. And when we look at this, there will be UND array here, and then in that UND, we'll see we have options. And here are the actual options that are listed. So we have none, and then we have the Node 86 Pete Super Awesome Training. And so that's currently what's provided, but we want to restrict this. Technically, this administrator shouldn't be able to choose any of these because he or she hasn't actually purchased these. So what we need to do is I'm going to paste in a bunch of code here, and we're going to walk through it together so you understand what's going on. So I'm going to open up my IDE. I'm going to paste this in here. So I'm leaving the DSM in. And first thing I'm going to do is going to add some comments here. And so we need to get the user ID of the logged in user. And so what this will allow us to do is find out who the logged in user is and then see what orders they have available. So that we do that by calling this global variable user, and then we can actually create a variable UID, which is equal to the user UID. If you're curious about this, just run a DSM on this user and you can see all the information that's associated with it. Then we're building our query. So if you've never done query building in Drupal 7, I highly recommend that you check out drupal.org/documentation. So drupal.org/developing/API/database. And here's all the information about the database. You're going to look at dynamic queries. And here, there's a bunch of information. If you scroll down, you can see all the different things that you would add to a dynamic query. And so that's what we've done here. I'll walk you through. So first thing we're doing is we're calling, we're going to be selecting from the UC orders table. And so that's a table that comes with Ubercart, and that's essentially all of our order information. It's kind of like a base table for our orders. And we're going to create an alias of UCO. And then what we're going to do is we're going to join that table with UC order products, which we're also going to alias as UCOP. And the reason why we do that is because UC products actually contains the user ID, but UC products actually contains the product that they purchased. So it's similar to the way that the node tables work. Node table contains some base information and links to a bunch of different tables. That's how Ubercart's set up. So we have to link those two tables together. Then we're going to actually start building our query. So we're going to grab fields, and it's only going to be the NID that we grab from the UC order products. We want to know what node was purchased by the user. And the condition is going to be only grab those NIDs where the user is equal to the logged in user. Right? Then we're going to group them by the actual NID so we don't get any duplicates, and we're going to execute that query and pass that into results. Then we'll take results and we'll build an array of products with that, just so that we have a nice streamlined array, where we have 0 is equal to some node, 2 is equal to some, or 1 is equal to some node, 2 is equal to some node. This isn't really that necessary, but it just makes things a little bit cleaner. Then once we have that, we're going to go through each one of the options in our form here, so each one of these, and we're going to check to compare, is that part of our products array? So has the person purchased that node? If not, we're going to go ahead and unset that. And so you notice I've got a typo here. That's because when I was setting up this video tutorial, I had originally created the wrong field. And so essentially what here, we're going to take the node ID and the node title, and so that's how this is actually set up. You'll see node ID and then the node title. So that's why we're doing that as in our for each. And then if it's not in the array, we're passing the NID as the needle, and then we're looking in the haystack products. If it's not in there, go ahead and unset that option. So let's go ahead and we'll get rid of this DSM form because we don't need that anymore. We'll save this, and we'll go to our FTP client, and let's go ahead and upload this. It's going to tell us we want to overwrite. Yes. Now let's flush our cache, something we have to do. We've obviously created some kind of problem here. So maybe we shouldn't have gotten rid of our DSM. Let's open that back up. And we'll take a look at what we've actually done here. So let's go DSM, form, save that. Oops, need our semicolon. Save that. Go ahead, re-upload this. We can take a look at this, and we're looking at purchased event. That's our problem. So it's field purchased event. So this is actually going to be field purchased event, field purchased event. I think that's the only place that we use it, so we can save that and go ahead and re-upload this. Refresh this. And we know that everything's working properly because now we're not being able to choose any type of purchased event. And that's because we actually haven't purchased any things ourselves. So what we should do is get rid of our DSM here before we forget about that. We don't have to upload that because we'll be making a couple other changes. And just to make sure that works, we'll check our anonymous user here. And what we should do is go back to pay per node and allow them to create a new one. So they've created one. We'll change that. Remember, we'll put that to a 0, go update, check back with our anonymous user, then go to my account, pay per node, create, and you see that they're able to choose Pete's Super Awesome Training. And you'll notice that none is removed. That's because they haven't purchased none. So that's great. So now they can choose specific purchased event. If you wanted to take this a step further, what you could also do is part of this query also build in to see if they've already created a node for a specific event. I'm not going to show you how to do that. That's something that you can do on your own, and maybe learn a little bit of something in terms of how to build queries and how to further your your hook form alter. So that's a little test for you. Go ahead and do that. And if you've done that, and maybe you want to help some people out, go ahead, post a comment, but just put spoiler alert on it so people know that you're actually providing that code. Next thing we want to do, if you remember, I told you that when we go to my account, we want to get rid of this pay per node here. So we're going to introduce another function, and that's going to be hook menu alter. And I'm going to go ahead and paste some code here. Copy this. And oops, I'm going to open up my IDE here. And I've got another function that's going to be hook menu alter. And if you're curious about this, just go check out api.drupal.org. You can search for hook menu alter and you'll see how this actually works. But essentially your menus are cached in Drupal, so this is going to only occur when we actually clear the menu cache. But what it's going to do is it's going to look at items. It's going to find user slash %user, which is actually a special function in Drupal, which calls a specific function on the argument passed in there. And then it's going to look for pay per node. And so what we're going to do is I'm creating this menu variable and setting it to this just so that I don't have to type that out all the time. And then I'm going to change this title, so it's going to be purchased registrations. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this specific item user slash user, %user slash registrations. That's going to be the path instead of pay per node. I'm setting that equal to the actual menu, which is this variable here. So I'm kind of swapping them, and then I'm going to unset the original so that it actually doesn't exist. So I know it's a bit confusing, but you'll see it all as magic happens here. We're going to go ahead, upload this. And remember, as I mentioned, all of our menus are cached, so we actually have to go in and flush our caches. So there we go. Now we see that the tab's gone to actually purchase registrations, and when we hover over it, we see that it's user 136/registrations. And the same can be said for our anonymous user. When we refresh our page, purchase registrations, click on it, and we're at user 136/registrations. So that's we're starting to make a little bit of a nicer system here for our end users. Now let's start taking care of our administrators. And the first thing we're going to do that is create a new view so that administrators can see who has registered for their specific event. Let's go ahead and go add a new view. And we're going to call this event registrations. And this is not going to be content anymore. Our base table is actually going to be ordered products. Unsorted, we're not going to create a page. We're going to create a block because we're going to actually tag this onto our event listings. So we're going to go ahead and continue and edit. Now this is where we're going to get a little bit complicated. So I'm going to go ahead and just remove this order NID. I don't want that in there. But what I need to do is add a relationship. And so this relationship is actually going to be for the ordered product. And I'm going to grab the ordered product node. So I'm going to apply this to all displays. And now what I actually have to do as well is create a contextual filter. And this contextual filter is going to be based on my content. So it's going to be the node ID. So let's add that. And this node ID is going to be based on the actual node that we talked about, so the purchased node, right? And we're going to provide a default view. And that's because it's not actually going to be passed in. We want to grab that from the actual URL. And so all of our URLs on our site are actually node/some number. But the system, when we have clean URLs and path alias, changes that to be some clean URL that we get. So that's why we're seeing admin/structure and all that kind of stuff. Or if we're on a specific node, we see Peter's registration rather than node 136. So that's kind of how this works. Again, if you're not too sure about this, check out my view series. Go ahead and apply that. And so now this is going to dynamically filter the content that we're looking at just so that it's related to this node ID. And we actually have to add another relationship. And this relationship might be a little bit confusing, but what we want to do is actually look for this reverse relationship to our purchased event. And what that allows us to do is go back into the purchased event and grab the fields that were associated with that registration from the user. So we'll go ahead and apply that. And we don't want to use it in all cases. But now what we can do is we can add some fields. Name. We'll go ahead and grab that. I guess I could have done them all at once, but we want to use the field purchased event. And so we'll leave that with a label. And then I want to grab two other fields, which could have done it at the same time. I'm going to grab last name, and then I want to find email. And so I don't want order email, I want content email. So this appears in Node Event Registration. Make sure you're choosing the right one. Go ahead and apply that. And this is going to be related to field purchased event. And again, relationship is going to be field purchased event. And let's just clean this up. We'll rearrange these so that we can do that. And what we should do is let's check out our content just to see what our product ID is. So we got Pete's Awesome Training. That product ID is 86. So if we go down here and we type in 86 to the argument, we update the preview. We can see that we're getting an array, and that's because for some reason our format always goes to these calendar entities. So we're not going to show calendar entities. We're just going to show fields. We'll apply that. Yep, default, that's fine. Now when we see 86, we see first name Peter, last name Y, email is blank. Obviously that shouldn't be blank. That's because it looks like it's grabbed the node. This should be field purchased event. We'll go ahead and apply that. And there we go. And these are all happening under with line returns, or carriage returns rather. That's just because of our settings in our show content. So we could change that up by going to event registration, manage display. I'm not going to do that. That's obviously something that you could do yourself. But while we're here, what we're going to actually do as well is add a new field. And this is where views mail comes in. It's going to be a global field. And we're going to add send email. So this is provided by the views send module that we grabbed. And so once we add that, you can see that we can create this send email label. So we'll go ahead and apply that. And then if we scroll down, we get the send email with a checkbox. So that's how we can go ahead and select the users to send an email to if we want to do like an update or that kind of thing to specific users who are registered for the site. We have that ability now. So last thing we need to do is change the access to this, and this is going to be based on a role. I'm going to apply this. And this role is going to be an administrator. So we'll go ahead again and apply this. And block name, we're going to call this Ubercart registrations. Go ahead and apply that. And you know what? Instead of an unformatted list, which is kind of ugly, we'll go with a table. And then we've got this nice way of making things look good. And then when we scroll down, we see first name, last name, email, and send this email. Let's go ahead and save this. Now what we need to do is place this. Let's go to blocks. And we'll just make sure, yeah. So I had already worked through this. I already placed this. So you'll see I've got Ubercart registrations. It's already placed in the content. So that's great. I would go ahead and save. I don't have to edit or configure this to show it only on certain pages because views argument takes care of that. It will only show up where the specific argument is shown. If not, it will hide. So we'll go ahead and save the blocks. So there we go. Now if we go back to our home page and we look at Pete's Super Awesome Training, we can see that I've got an event registration here from t@t.com, and I can go ahead, I can click that username, I can go send email, and then this page is going to ask me who my sender name is, who my sender email is, so that's all configurable. It's pulling this information in from my site. In terms of the recipient, I can tell it I want to use the first name to send the email to, and I can tell it its email is the actual email field, and then I can provide a subject. So this is a test email, hello world. And I can, I've got some additional replacements here, so I can add in tokens if I didn't want to do straight text. So that could, I pull in the name of the event that they've registered for. And I can also add, a priority, request a receipt, and some additional headers. And lastly, some nice settings here so that I can use the batch API so that it doesn't bog down my entire site, and I can send a copy of the message to myself. Right? I can go next, and I've got the ability to actually check to make sure that the settings are proper, get an idea of what the email will look like, and I can click send to actually send the email. So that's kind of cool. That's a nice system that we've got available there from the View Send module. I think it's pretty awesome, and it's not something that I've used a whole lot. I just actually found it when I was researching this video tutorial. But the last thing we want to do is actually create a calendar, show all of our events for users to come check out. So we do that by going to Views. We're going to actually add a view from Template. And this is the cool thing about the calendar, is it creates all of these different templates that you can go and just go ahead and add. It doesn't actually automatically add these to your site and bog it down. You can specifically choose what you want here. So what I'd like to do is create a calendar of field date. So that's what I've gone ahead and done in the node base table. So let's add that. So it gives me the ability to change the name. So I'll just call this events calendar. And now you'll see it creates all of these different displays. I can do it by month, I can do it by week, day, year. I also have a block, I have upcoming. So that's kind of neat. You can play around with all of these, but what I'll do is I'll show you, we'll just change the page settings here. From path, I'll just do this events. Go ahead and apply that. I can save this. And then what I'm going to do is just go to uc.toronto-website-developer/events. And I've got this nice calendar, and if I go to the next, you'll see that I've got my super awesome training listed here, and if I click into that, you'll see that I actually get taken to the page, and I can click back, and then I'm back here. And the reason why I chose April 23rd, it chooses this specific date, is because if you check out advanced here, you'll see that there's a contextual filter, and this contextual filter is telling it the start date to be the current date. So you could always change that up. You could obviously create this view and add some additional information here if you wanted to, but that's it for this video tutorial. That's entirely your node registration system set up here. One thing you might want to do is create your calendar as your front page here and have a bunch of different events, but essentially a user can come now, find an event on your site, sign up for it, pay for it, and be good to go, and then you can collect a whole bunch of registration information and email that user. So hopefully you learned something here. I think there are a lot of things here that you can take to different e-commerce sites. This isn't specifically about event registrations. You looked at custom module development, which can be applied elsewhere, especially Hook Form Alter and Hook Menu Alter. And then specifically looking at the calendar date modules, those are all some key modules that can do some pretty powerful things. So again, if this video tutorial helped you, please leave a comment on my site or YouTube, and also leave me a thumbs up. I always appreciate those on YouTube, and we'll see you in the next video tutorial where we conclude the entire series. Thanks very much.